Welcome to our podcast conversation. We're diving into the idea of listening deeply, not just hearing words, but truly processing and then being able to share what you've heard.
That's right, it's all about that active listening process, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, when we talk about listening in this context, it's like it goes beyond just the act of hearing. It's about absorbing, retaining, and then explaining the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating how this step builds on earlier listening strategies, like just making sure there's no distraction and that we're mentally in the right frame.
Right, and one of the first building blocks mentioned is to stop any distractions. So that means putting down your phone, not scribbling notes on unrelated stuff, ensuring that, well, nothing interrupts your focus.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you're saying it's about setting a stage for active listening, like removing the clutter?
Absolutely, it's like you have this mental workspace that needs to be clear so you can properly repeat or rephrase what you've heard and, mentally rehearse it so it sinks in.
Yeah, got it. And once that mental stage is set, the next challenge is actually retaining the information, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's where it gets interesting. There's a whole section on retaining and processing. Most of us, let's be honest, we don't recall things verbatim. It's more about capturing from a broader perspective
Mm-hmm.
the gist of the message.
Exactly. We usually filter and store the core ideas, which is what really matters. That step also talks about making connections with what you already know.
Yes, yes, it suggests that you relate new info to your existing frameworks, like connecting it geographically, historically, or even to something you've personally experienced. It's almost like crafting your own little
Right.
story around it.
And that storytelling element, it's powerful, isn't it? I mean, weaving a narrative makes it so much easier to remember and recount what you've just listened to.
Exactly. Our brains are wired for stories. I mean, think about it. If you can turn instructions or a series of points into a mini narrative, you'll probably recall it much
Mm-hmm.
more vividly later.
But here's something I wonder. What about when the information is really dry, like a set of instructions without much narrative to latch onto? How do you deal with that?
Ah, that's a good challenge. It's like when you have dry instructions, one strategy is to insert your own connections or even, create a little story in your head. For example, if you're told a series of steps, you might think about a familiar experience that mirrors those steps, turning
Yeah,
abstract directives into something you can visualize.
I see. So it's like actively bridging the gap between raw data and personal experience to help your brain store it better.
Yup, you nailed it. And then there's the aspect of recalling and sharing. The interesting thing is that when you need to pass on information, you don't need a word for word recount. It's about getting the key points across.
Right. So instead of um, a perfect replay, it's more about a summarized version that still carries the essence.
Precisely. And that requires some thought before you share. Like, you need to process and decide what's most important. It's not just a memory dump, but a curated
Mm-hmm.
version.
And that makes a huge difference, especially in a classroom setting or any learning environment. Imagine a teacher who gives a talk. The students then, after processing, share the highlights, making sure that everyone gets the main message.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the suggested teaching methods is to have learners listen to a 3 to 5 minute talk and then, after a reflective pause, share their take on it with their peers. It's almost like a chain of understanding.
Yep. And then there's this game like activity, like Pass It On, where each student relays a story or set of instructions to the next person. That practice really reinforces active listening and comprehension.
Exactly. I love that part. It empowers students to focus on clarity and ensure they don't miss critical details. It's like a feedback loop. The better you process, the more accurately you can pass it on.
Yeah, but of course, it's not all smooth sailing every time. Sometimes memory can be tricky, especially if distractions sneak in or if you're not in the right mindset at that moment.
Oh, definitely. And that's why the initial step, ensuring there are no distractions, is so critical. It's like trying to tune a radio. If there's static, you won't catch the clear signal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a delicate balance between external environment and internal focus. And what do you think about the idea of repeating the information in your head as mentioned?
I think that's one of the most effective techniques. When you silently repeat the information, it's like reinforcing the neural pathway. It gives you a moment to check your understanding as well. If something doesn't make sense, you might catch it immediately.
Right. Makes sense. But might there be a downside? I mean, can over repetition sometimes lead to fixation on minor details while ignoring broader themes?
That's a fair point. It really is about balance. You want to focus enough to capture the main message, but not so much that you're trapped in the weeds. You have to sort and filter what's important and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly where reflective questions come in handy, right? Asking yourself things like, what are the key points? Or, how does this connect to what I already know? But I guess not every learner finds it easy to pinpoint those.
For sure, it's a skill that comes with practice. Some people naturally pick up these connections, while others may need more guided practice. Teachers are encouraged to model these reflective strategies to help learners identify what's most important.
Yeah, and I like how, through these teaching methods, it's reinforced as a regular habit, a routine practice rather than a one off activity.
Definitely. Incorporating it regularly not only improves comprehension but also builds a positive learning dynamic. It becomes part of the classroom culture.
Mm-hmm. Another intriguing part is that assessment approach. Instead of testing for exact recall, the focus is on how well someone can convey the main ideas and the overall understanding of the speech.
Exactly, and that is more natural because in real life, we rarely need to recite things word for word. It's about effective communication of ideas.
Right. I actually think that's a more realistic skill to assess. After all, if you can't explain it in your own words, are you truly understanding it?
Absolutely, and that wraps back around to active listening, a skill that's essential not only for academic mastery, but for everyday communication. It's a foundational skill, whether you're in a classroom or having a conversation at work.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it's pretty cool that with just a bit of careful listening and reflective practice, you can really transform the way information is internalized and shared.
Right. It's like upgrading your learning software. It takes a bit of effort at first, stopping distractions, focusing, repeating, but once you hone the skill, it can really boost your confidence and clarity in
Yep,
communicating ideas.
well said. And I think that's why making these practices habitual can have such a lasting impact, whether in academic settings or day to day conversations.
Absolutely. Thanks for the engaging exchange today. It's been great discussing how listening effectively, retaining, and recalling information interlink to form a powerful communication tool.
Yeah, for sure. It's been super enlightening. Catch you next time as we explore more of these insights into everyday skills.